Ole Miss and State are going to interrupt this Lane Kiffin meeting to play an Egg Bowl. And we're going to talk about it on this crossover edition of Locked On Ole Miss and Locked On Mississippi State.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast and the Locked On Mississippi State podcast. I am Stephen Willis. He is Jaron Spor, and we are going to talk about the game that is the most important game in the state of Mississippi. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it this week. We're going to give scores, players to watch, paths to victory for both teams, so stick around for that. I always just enjoy spending time with my boy, Jaron Spor. Jaron, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. One more day, or I guess 2 more days until the game starts. So it's exciting. We got Thanksgiving football on Thursday, which is my favorite time. All the NFL games, then a lot of great games, including this one on Friday. So it's going good.
All right. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the everydayers who make this show and the Locked On Mississippi State show what it is. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right. The storyline in this game is pretty simple, and that is Lane Kiffin is completely overshadowed potentially the best regular season in Ole Miss football history over silliness. And we're going to play a football game in the middle of it to where Ole Miss has to win that game to play the biggest college football game in the history of the state of Mississippi. But it's all about Florida and all about LSU, and it's ridiculous. But if Ole Miss can block out the noise for one more game, they have everything in front of them to play where there could be like the 6th or the 7th seed in the college football playoff ranking playing an ACC team or the G5 team in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium for a chance to get either like A&M or Indiana in the second round, and everything's in front of them, man.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about this, really these last 2 weeks, because we had a bye week last week, is this game is so massive, really for both schools, because for Mississippi State, it's to get to bowl eligibility, and after going 2-10 last year, that's a pretty big jump, and so that's huge for them. And then, as you mentioned, for Ole Miss, first college football playoff berth is on the line in this game, and still everyone's talking about Lane Kiffin and things that's happening there. But yeah, I mean, this is just a massive game, and from the Mississippi State side, like Lane and I talked about it earlier this week, but bowl eligibility, I mean, that gets you more practices, that gets you obviously an extra game, which I don't think they're going to start Kamario Taylor in this one, but in that bowl game, that's the one that you would likely start him and get him some experience. So that'd be key to get that game under his belt. And so it's massive for them just to get that kind of experience. I'm not one that believes in that you get momentum by winning a game like this on the field, like it carries over to next year. I mean, we saw Florida win 4 straight last year, had all the momentum, and then nothing this year. Like, I don't believe in that, but I do believe it does have momentum in recruiting. It does have momentum in terms of experience with your players and things like that. So that's why it's massive for them.
Yeah, and players on the Mississippi State roster, like let's say Aiden Williams, if he comes back, having those extra 15 practice and reps with Kamario Taylor, that would be needed. That would be something that you would want to happen. And you're interested to see exactly at Ole Miss, is it going to be Austin Simmons' team next year again? Is Trinidad Chambliss going to get the extra year of eligibility and stay at Ole Miss? Will the new coach change everything around? There's so many unknowns that honestly, the bowl practices, they're the most important storyline on the table for Mississippi State for 2026 and beyond. The playoff practices for Ole Miss, that is where Ole Miss sits right now. They can't even worry about 2026 right now.
Yeah, and you said new coach. Are you already preparing for Lane Kiffin to announce that he's leaving on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion, and it's my opinion, that Lane Kiffin's going to be coaching football somewhere other than Oxford, Mississippi next year.
Yeah, I mean, just everything that was reported this weekend, and then the timing right after that with the AD statement. I kind of think it's LSU, which is crazy because when it all started happening, I did not think LSU was the one that was going to get him to pull away.
Do
But
not count out Florida. Do
oh
not
yeah,
count out
well they're
Florida.
going to go all in, yeah, for sure.
Mm.
I mean, and same with LSU. I never thought he'd go to LSU, and I still don't think LSU makes a lot of sense, especially with the governor kind of being a part of the a part of the situation there. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just a very important game, and I'm glad that this game has meaning, whereas last year's game really didn't have meaning because Ole Miss was already out of the playoff. Mississippi State only had 2 wins. There wasn't really much meaning to that one. But I do have a question for you because you obviously been around this for so long. What is your feeling of the game being on Black Friday as opposed to Thanksgiving Day? I actually like it, but I know a lot of Mississippi State fans would rather it be on Thanksgiving Day.
I think the game needs to be on Thanksgiving night, period. That needs to be the Thanksgiving game. Now, I realize that the Lone Star Showdown, Texas A&M, they have history of Thanksgiving night, and there's a lot of teams that want it on Thanksgiving night. I like the game on Thanksgiving night. You have your turkey, you all settled in, you're playing the Egg Bowl at 6:45, something absolutely ridiculous happens, and then you move on and you can enjoy your Friday and Saturday. Right. Everything's kind of over because if you lose the Egg Bowl, it stings. It genuinely stings. And I've been on both sides of that. You can be unbelievably elated or unbelievably deflated after this ball game. And there's something about the game being on Thanksgiving night. You can wake up Friday, the sun comes up, and kind of reset everything and just enjoy the football over the last 2 days. I do think the game deserves to be on Thursday night, but we'll see what ABC wants to do with that, because it looks like they have a pretty good lineup right now on Friday. And it's like, hey, we're going to do all 3 games, both days, and the SEC is just going to dominate television. And I could be down with that too. I don't know what I feel about 11 a.m., how that feels, but I do think that Ole Miss playing on Friday or Thursday, just don't move it to Saturday, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't love the 11 a.m. My thing about the Friday was I just don't like competing against the NFL for viewership. And the reason why I take it from I agree with you in terms of as a fan, just wanting to watch that night because you don't care about that NFL game and all that stuff. But recruits and stuff are going to watch your game more if it's not competing against the NFL, and other people outside of the state are going to watch your game more if it's not competing against the NFL. So that's why I kind of like the Friday, because Friday now kind of feels like, and I do know the NFL has 1 game on Friday, but it feels like that's college football's day and then Saturday as well. So they get kind of the weekend. So that's why I actually like the Black Friday game and instead of the Thanksgiving Day game, is because you're just not competing with anything.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, and I can see that side of the story and everything. As long as it's not on Saturday,
yeah,
I'm happy. It needs to be at some point Thursday or Friday, and that appears to be what the SEC thinks as well. Now we just need the SEC to remember that the Ole Miss LSU game needs to be on Halloween. Once you get back to that, everything will kind of take care of itself. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about some players to watch and storylines and some more and all of that between Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the battle for the Golden Egg. I'm Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss. He's Jaron Spor from Locked On Mississippi State. We will talk to you in just a moment. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel and sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to this podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing but keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game yet again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's coming in December. Pay attention to that. And thank you for making these podcasts your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That is all because of you. All right, Jaron. So whenever you look at this game, I think this is a game after seeing what Ahmad Hardy did for Missouri against Mississippi State. This is a Kewan Lacy game. You want to run football against Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State's good on the back end of the defense, but a lot of that could be the fact that they're so poor against the run. And I think Mississippi State has to prove that they can stop Kewan Lacy before you unleash essentially the rest of the weapons.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Hardy because Frazier the week before ran all over them from Georgia. And so it's been back-to-back really bad games. The front seven has clearly been a weakness of the team all season long. And it's not just in the running game, which that obviously has been a big issue. They also don't get much of a pass rush at all, and they don't force a lot of TFLs. And so it is a very bad matchup for Mississippi State against Ole Miss when it comes to that, because already Ole Miss doesn't give up many sacks. I think 16 or something like that for the season, or 20. It was something like that for the whole season. So, and big part of that is Trinidad's able to get out of a lot of stuff, and he's so excellent at that. So this is not a good matchup for Mississippi State's defensive line. Now, the back end has actually been really pretty good this year, and even in instances where they've had to cover for long periods of time, they've been pretty good. But that's just not sustainable, and that's kind of what we've seen at least the last couple of weeks is, as soon as they start getting gashed in the run game, now you have to bring some of those secondary guys down to help with that. And now the secondary is being susceptible to some bigger plays when they weren't really allowing that earlier in the season. So, yeah, the key to the game is going to be their front Mississippi State's front seven against the running game from Ole Miss, and I don't love that matchup right now.
Yeah, do you think Mississippi State and Coleman Hertzler is going to essentially do the engage 8 thing from Madden? Just to kind of just rush that line of scrimmage to try and stunt the run game and just put the cornerbacks on an island?
So that's kind of what I thought they were going to do against Missouri, and it didn't really matter. So, I think he's got to just pretty much sell out to stop the run. But my thing is, compared to the last 2 games, I think Trinidad is the second best quarterback in the SEC. I think he's at least playing like that. Ty Simpson, I'd probably put number 1, and I'd put Trinidad right behind him. And once Georgia started running the football, Gunnar Stockton had success throwing all over the field. And I think Trinidad and Ole Miss's weapons are better than what Georgia has. And so they could sell out to stop the run and still get beat and allow 40 points because Trinidad just has this amazing game throwing the football. But I do really like the secondary with Jerron Manning, with Kelly Jones has had an amazing season in the secondary for Mississippi State. I think he leads the SEC in pass deflections pass deflections. And so he's having a great year as well. But the key, though, is if Isaac Smith will be back, which we won't know more about that until like the availability reports start coming out. Levy really wasn't commenting on him or Brennan Thompson for that matter and their availability. So that will be key to get him back because he missed the last 2 games, and he's the big run stopper for them.
Okay. So if he's back, and he's probably going to be back because people that don't know, Isaac Smith is a Mississippian, and this game probably means a good bit. If I'm not mistaken, he might be an Ole Miss legacy as well, which means this game really means a lot to him if that's the case. So I honestly expect him to play. I don't know about Brennan Thompson because he plays that position that is very speed-based, essentially.
Yeah.
So if there's a pull or a strain or something like that, and it cost you 2/10 running the 40-yard dash, that's a lot for what he does. If he's fully healthy, he's a problem. They're a problem offensively, period. And when you look at the Mississippi State offense, I think the other side of the coin will be Mississippi State's wide receiver and Blake Shapen against Ole Miss's secondary, which has been susceptible all season to the deep ball, the deep play. And I honestly think that Jeff Lebby is going to try to do that. That's one of the reasons I think that Kamario Taylor, he's probably going to play. I would expect Blake Shapen most of all because they're going to try and take advantage of Ole Miss on the back end of the defense.
Yeah, and Blake has thrown the deep ball fairly well. I mean, he is a little inconsistent. Depends on the games. Like against Arizona State, he was really dialed in on the deep ball. Against Tennessee, he was pretty good against it. So it just kind of depends on the game. But Yeah, I mean, that's the strength for Mississippi State on the other side is and the weakness against Ole Miss is because, yeah, they're susceptible to the deep ball. They're susceptible to blowing coverages. I remember watching the Oklahoma game. Even if you think you've stopped them, just then the breakaway from, a free play, or running around or extending plays, things like that, they kind of struggle with that as well. Ole Miss does. And so that's where I think Mississippi State has to take advantage, but it's got to be one of those games that Blake Shapen has a good day throwing the deep ball. Because if he's having one of his bad days, then I don't really see much success for Mississippi State, because I think the best thing about them is their running game, but I really like Ole Miss's front seven. So I would give the advantage there, and that's why there's going to be a lot of pressure on Blake Shapen to complete the deep ball.
Absolutely. Now, do you buy the whole internet rumor that's going around that some Ole Miss booster bought $400,000 worth of tickets to Davis Wade?
I don't know if I buy it or not. The weird thing is, I feel like this year we're seeing those stories more than I've seen ever. Like at a lot of different colleges, I've read it about several colleges where some booster bought a ton of tickets and all this stuff. So I don't know if I believe it. I will say I've been kind of disappointed in the fans' attendance for some games this year. I remember the Tennessee game. I was watching that one, and you go into that game 4-0, and you end up losing in overtime. Like, it was a really good game, but it felt like there was more Tennessee fans there than the Mississippi State fans, and so I was really disappointed in seeing that, especially because of the season they were having. But this is different. This is a rivalry, so hopefully they're out and about for this one.
Yeah, one thing that makes my antennas go up is that this week Ole Miss changed the away game road color to powder blue, something that would completely stand out, because they normally do the navy blue, so it all just kind of blends in together in a November in Mississippi. But this year is the admin saying, hey, we want to stand out, which means that they think something's up, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see it. I mean, Ole Miss, again, you mentioned it in the first segment, this is the biggest game in Ole Miss history.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see fans saying, I want to be there for that. And, it's not like a terribly long drive. It's not like they're playing, Florida or something, or Alabama, and they have to travel out of state. Like, they can stay in state to get to this game. And so I can definitely see it. I will say, if there's more Ole Miss fans there, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be disappointed, but I wouldn't be surprised.
What's the feel? We'll talk about past the victory and give our score predictions in the next segment. What is the real feel of Mississippi State going into this game? Are they hoping to win, or are they expecting to win?
I think more hoping to win. I think I'm talking more for the fan base. Just reading a lot of the comments. These last two games are the only two games they've really been dominated from start to finish all season long. Like, they lost by like 22 against Texas A&M, but they were down a touchdown going to the fourth. Like that, they were in that game, and then it got away. But these last two, they've kind of gotten blown out, and I think that's really taken a hit to the fan base. You've seen a lot of people that are just ready for the season to be over with. A lot of fire this person, fire that person, get rid of this guy, get rid of that. And you weren't seeing that a lot up until these last two games. And so I think this is a fan base that's hurt, has a lot of not a lot of confidence going into this game. And I understand it. Ole Miss is having a heck of a season.
Yeah, and Jaron's going to tell you, though, the path that Mississippi State has to win shortly after this break. And I'm going to tell you the path that Ole Miss needs to win the game. This is the first ever Egg Bowl edition crossover podcast between Locked On Ole Miss and Locked On Mississippi State. I'm Stephen Willis. He's Jaron Spor. When we come back, we'll tell you all about that, so stick around. Sorry. College football is back, and I could not be much more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing quite like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. The endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. The Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices, all with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw some amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game for as low as $25. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Download Game Time today. All right, Jaron, let's talk about path to victory. And I will go first because, we are the number 6 team in the entire country. The path to victory for this one is don't help Mississippi State. Make them have to earn absolutely everything. They're going to score some points. They're going to make some plays because Jeff Lebby is very good at coaching offensive football. But don't turn the ball over. The reason that Florida was as close as it was a Trinidad Chambliss interception in the red zone that led to a 1st and goal from the 3. Don't make plays like that, and you should win this game going away. Ole Miss is better on special teams. Ole Miss is better on defense, and Ole Miss is better offensively. The only way that you can change that is by buying into the hype of a rivalry game and playing less than clean football, penalties, turnovers, going forward at inconspicuous spots. If it's a 4th and 16 on your own 32 in the first half, just punt the ball. It's going to be fine. Ole Miss doing any of that stuff could put themselves in jeopardy. If they play clean, they're going to win this game by a couple scores potentially.
Yeah, for Mississippi State, the path to the victory is hitting the deep balls and hitting the explosive plays, being able to protect long enough to hit those plays, and that's a big if they're able to do that because the pass protection hasn't been great. But if they are, I really do think they can take advantage of Ole Miss's secondary. The other kind of path to victory is if Ole Miss just kind of has a letdown game because of all the distractions going on with Lane Kiffin. And in Lane Kiffin's coaching career, they are pretty typical that they have those letdown games, and they haven't really had one yet this year. Like they had a letdown quarter against Georgia, but again, it's Georgia. It's not like it was the whole game they didn't play well, but they haven't had that moment yet where they just kind of, for lack of a better word, laid an egg. So we'll see if that is the game that this happens in. I also saw like a crazy stat, and we talked about it on our Monday show, but outgoing Ole Miss coaches in their last Egg Bowl are 1-7. The one win was in 1902. So that would be, I guess, kind of in Mississippi State's favor for this game. So yeah, the path to victory would be Ole Miss just kind of beating itself, just not showing up. All the distractions kind of overwhelm them, and then hitting the deep ball and making some explosive plays.
That's interesting, that 1-7 stat. Now you have to figure that a coach that is going out is likely getting fired. That's likely a bad team. Yeah. But that is an interesting stat. It'll be curious for me to see if this becomes one of those type games. I was thinking about of what could possibly go wrong. I remember the 2009 Egg Bowl to where Ole Miss went down with a win. They're going to the Capital One Bowl at that point. Mississippi State they were 5-6 or something like that, because I do believe there's nothing more dangerous than a 5-win Egg Bowl team. Mm-hmm. And Mississippi State took Ole Miss apart that day. Like Chris Relf running all around the field and all of that. So there's going to be a fair amount of nervousness in the stadium. And if we're going to be honest about it, if this game is tight at the end of the game, Ole Miss is going to get tight. That fan base is going to get tight. It's going to happen because of what the pressure says about this game. I think that Ole Miss is going to win the game. I think this is a 24-14 type game because it's always a low scoring game in the Egg Bowl. I think it's supposed to be about 45 degrees, 50 degrees at kickoff. I think 24-14 is my score. Ole Miss is not going to play as well as they could, but they are going to play well enough.
Yeah, you have a little more faith in Mississippi State than I do, because I have 34-13 Ole Miss. And the main reason is I just think that front seven can stop the run from Mississippi State and get after the quarterback enough where they're not able to hold it long enough to hit those explosive plays. And as I mentioned, history kind of says that Lane Kiffin's team will lay an egg at some point, and maybe this is it because they haven't done it this year. But I just kind of feel this team's different. I just really do. I've watched them a lot this year, and they just don't seem like a team that has those terrible game performances. Maybe a quarter, maybe a series here and there, but as far as a game, they don't really have that. It's very similar to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M always has that terrible performance, and they just haven't had it this year. I guess they had it in a half against South Carolina, and it looked like it was going to happen, and then obviously they take off. Now, I think a big reason why they haven't had it is they actually have a football coach as their head coach, and Ole Miss hasn't changed anything.
Also, South Carolina, while they were up by 20 points, decided to go for a fourth down instead of kick a field goal.
They did, yes.
Field goal was the margin of victory.
Yeah.
I do not know why head coaches are so adverse to points right now.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And so I just think this team is different. We talked about it on the last crossover. Talent-wise, they're not as good as last year's team, but they're probably a better team because they're more consistent. And that's what I see.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting to go. Now, if you had to lay down, you get on FanDuel.com and making prop bets. What's some props for Mississippi State that you might be going, like Blake Shapen plus 300 yards passing, something like that?
Well, if I have it 34-13, that means I'm not very optimistic about a lot of stuff. I would do a Kamario Taylor anytime touchdown. I'll do something like that because I do think it feels like if every time they get down to the red zone, especially in the goal line situations, they give him the ball and he's able to punch it in. And so I would go a Kamario Taylor stat over anything else right now.
Yeah, and mine would be 2 Kewan Lacy touchdowns. If Ole Miss gets in the red zone, he's going to get the ball. I think he leads the country in touchdowns right now. He's a really good running back. He is a finalist that was named for the Doak Walker Award. He's one of the top 3. It's him, Ahmad Hardy, proud Mississippi boy, by the way, even though he's at Missouri. Yeah. And I think Jeremiah Love, who's probably going to win it because he plays at Notre Dame. So we'll see how that looks as well. All right. So what are your plans for this weekend? How are you watching the game, and how are you streaming after the game's over?
Yeah, so I'll be watching the game with the family. Thanksgiving week, we're actually going to Dallas Cowboys Kansas City Chiefs game on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. So we get to watch Dak Prescott play. So Mississippi State alum, obviously, and then we'll go back and watch it together while we're eating some Thanksgiving food because we got to make up for it since we're going to be on the road on Thanksgiving.
All right, you're live streaming after the game?
Possibly. Well, I'll be on vacation and don't have the best. I don't have the best internet where I'll be at. But if I'm able to, I'll possibly do it. Worst case, Lane and I will have at least a post-game reaction video that will get uploaded and react to it.
Okay, if you about 30 minutes after the final whistle, we'll be live on our channel. So if Mississippi State fans want to hate watch my channel, that's more than welcome as well. We take your comments. We try to have a good time with it. That'll be about 30 minutes after the game. I expect it to be a fun, spirited Egg Bowl like it always is, and surely nothing weird is going to happen, Jaron.
Yeah, surely. Nothing. The 5 and 6, it won't be dangerous this week.
That's right. Anyway, Jaron, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later, man.
All right, sounds good.